But growing up, I was taken away from my mom when I was 2, and then went and moved in with my dad. I don't remember exactly what age it was. I think I was about 8 or 9. My mom got arrested for drugs. Had a lot of money on her, a lot of guns that she couldn't own on her. My spring semester of my senior year, I had to do an internship, and I got to do it at Bixby High School in Bixby, Oklahoma. A lot of people have never heard of them. If you're in the high school football game, you know of them because they have won 10 of the last 11 state champions. Exactly that. Like, there's this guy. I don't want to say his name, but he was doing like a good morning once, and he's like, this is a great exercise for my football players because it opens up our hips and like it allows us to like push forward and go make a tackle. And then the other day he did like a Zercher good morning where like you're holding it like this, and he's like, we're holding it here so our hands are ready to go make the tackle. And I'm like, dude. So gonna backtrack a hair here. In 7th grade, with all this stuff going on, I made the decision for myself, my future self, and my family. I'm never going to drink, do drugs, anything like that, smoke tobacco, weed, whatever. But I'm also going to study kinesiology. I made that decision in 7th grade, and I ended up doing it. I fell in love with the weight room and kind of like the thought process of like, if I want to get better in life, it starts in the weight room because there's so many different qualities in the weight room that can translate to real life. So here I am, 22, never drank, smoked, anything like that.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
All right. And welcome back to another episode of Ill Eagle Culture Brands Red Tape Talk. I'm your host, John Nostos, a.k.a. Ill Eagle CEO. And I'm here with my 2 counterparts, Dion 2-Cup Larry and Cody Big Meat Mauk. Yeah. What's going on, fellas?
Yo.
And today we got another guest with us. I got the little homie Aiden Brown, who is a personal trainer, coach, athletics instructor extraordinaire, so to speak.
Like to call myself that.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself a subject matter expert?
Strength and conditioning.
Strength and conditioning? Cool. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We kind of mess around in the fitness industry a little bit. So Aiden just recently come on as a new trainer at HQ. He literally just signed on, so this is kind of kicking that off. And then
that's awesome.
We'll get him some clients and hopefully get him some athletes to start messing with and see what he's made of. But apparently he's got a lot to talk, and he's not your standard orthodox type of athletics trainer. So he's got some words for some different types of systems and things out there, I'd imagine. So Aiden, welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We've been trying to get you on for a really long time.
Yeah, it's been a struggle, man.
Yeah.
Living far away.
Well, you're just always back and forth so often, and so it's just hard to catch me on a time where we can just put it down. So. Yeah, I know you from. I want to tell this story real quick. So, Aiden was a little dirty ass kid in diapers running around when I first had ever crossed his path. I lived in an apartment in North Fargo where he lived with his mom and his brother. I'm not sure if you have more brothers or sisters that were there, but I remember you and
just been Nick.
Yeah, I remember you and Nick specifically, and I mean, just normal kids, bro, just running around, doing whatever they want outside, the apartment complex, pretty chill for the most part. But his brother decided one day to come home from school, and he was locked out of his house, so he decided to hang out in the garage and wait for somebody to get home. And while he was in there, he was playing with like matches or a lighter or something, and he set something on fire in the garage and then just ran from it instead of put it out. So he burnt down his garage and my garage at the same time. This would be Adam Martin's son, Nick, who did that, and that's who Aiden's brother is.
Okay.
So that's how I know him. His brother burnt my garage down. Destroyed a lot of my shit.
Wait, say that again?
So he is the brother to Adam Martin's son, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's not Adam Martin's son, but he's brother to him.
I'm confused.
So it's his mom
is his brother.
Gotcha.
With someone else, and then Adam and is Nick's dad.
Yeah, because I remember you telling us that story.
Yeah.
And I was, okay, that's why I was confused.
Yeah, he said that story to us on the Adam Martin podcast that
Yeah,
we did. And
That's why I was confused.
So,
I was
yeah.
like,
Because I ended up meeting Adam Martin way later down the road, and then we kind of put two and two together when he told me who his kid was, and then he mentioned your mom, Nicole, right? That was her name?
Yep.
And I was just like, wait a minute, I know her. And then I was like, she used to live downstairs from me. I'm like, your son is the kid who burnt down my damn garage. He was like, what? My son did what? Like, he started, because he didn't see his son at the time because Adam was still, he was alcoholic and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a weird thing to put together later on down the line when we became friends. And then he shows up one day, and then I put two and two together. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why are you guys all attacking me from all angles, bro? But yeah, sure shit. So he's here on the pod with us. We got a little history, and so yeah, I've known you since you were just a little runt in diapers, I guess, technically.
just
Not
goes
that I
to
was
show
heavily in your life, but you were my neighbor for a good couple years at least, if I remember correctly. So
it's a small world.
Very small. And I think at that point I was only visiting my mom. So the fact it happened while I was there is really crazy.
yeah,
Like, very crazy. Yeah, I think with strength and conditioning and stuff like that, like, my upbringing really drives the factors on how I train. Kind of like Nick, my parents weren't the best. They didn't make the best decisions.
Bring the mic just a little bit closer to your face, just so we don't have any issues.
Okay.
You're
You're good.
You move your head, just
Oh
move
yeah,
the
I
mic
got you.
with you.
I got you. But growing up, I was taken away from my mom when I was 2, and then went and moved in with my dad. I don't remember exactly what age it was. I think I was about 8 or 9. My mom got arrested for drugs. Had a lot of money on her, a lot of guns that she couldn't own on her, and a lot of meth on her. And so
it was a pretty high-profile case in this region, if I
yeah,
remember correctly, too.
like, I remember she was on the news.
Yeah.
And back then, the news probably isn't what it is now, where they put, running a red light on the news. But, yeah, that was, I want to say I was 8 or 9. She ended up getting 9 years in prison, if I remember right. And so, I lived with my dad and my stepmom at the time. They were married. And then when I was 13, I got to choose where I wanted to live. So I moved in with my grandma in Lemoore, North Dakota. And
You didn't want to live with your dad at the time?
no, I wanted to be with my mom's side of the family because I'm not going to put them on blast, but like, it was impossible for me to see my mom and her side of the family. It wasn't, I'm not even going to say whose fault it was, but like, there was no contact with my mom. There was even a point growing up where I didn't even know who my mom was because I had zero contact with her. I never got to see her, stuff like that. And so, honestly, as weird as it sounds, her being arrested probably saved that relationship, because then,
You have to
if
see
you're
them.
in prison for 8 years, you're going to be clean. You're going to prove to people that you are clean so you can go see them. And then, yeah, I moved to Lemoore. She got out when I was a freshman in high school, if I remember right. Lived in a halfway house in Bismarck for 3 to 6 months, something like that. Moved back, was living in Lemoore, working in Jamestown. Like, my sophomore year, she got a call. My dad's been arrested, and I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm just turning to the age where, like, I start to understand everything.
Yeah.
And they never really told me the full story. All I know is he had drugs on him and he went into Canada, and you can't do that.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm sitting there like, well, because his sentence was supposed to be 25 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
now I'm like,
He had a lot of drugs.
in America or
in Canada.
Oh,
or
wow.
wait, in America, but he was caught in Canada.
right? So they would extradite him back.
Yeah, something like that. I don't really know.
We're crossing, like, not even state lines. It's fucking
international.
international
Yeah.
trafficking.
International.
Yeah, damn.
So that happened, and then, like, literally 5 months later, we were about to play our biggest game of my sophomore season against Linton. If we won, we were in the playoffs. If we lost, we were out of the playoffs. And
What were you playing?
football.
Football, okay.
I was our starting QB. And there was a video on Facebook that went viral of like my mom tweaking while cutting someone's hair on Facebook. And I had no clue about it until I went to school, and then people showed me, and I was like,
She was a hairstylist.
yeah. And so, you know, in Lemoore, my class was 23 kids.
Yep.
Spreads like wildfire. We ended up winning the game, whatever. After that, I was like, dude, I can't go to school here. Like, too many people know about that stuff. And
was this post after her getting out of prison?
this was post.
Oh, that's
yes. So
But the video was from before?
No, the video
She
was from that time.
That
period.
time, too.
So it was
Okay.
like, it was a double whammy, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And
That sucks.
like a lot of those kids like would make fun of me for what my parents did because everyone knew.
Yeah.
Even though like in Lemoore it's the same exact stuff but with alcohol.
Mm.
And so gonna backtrack a hair here. In 7th grade, with all this stuff going on, I made the decision for myself, my future self, and my family. I'm never gonna drink, do drugs, anything like that, smoke tobacco, weed, whatever. But I'm also going to study kinesiology. I made that decision in 7th grade, and I ended up doing it. I fell in love with the weight room and kind of like the thought process of like, if I want to get better in life, it starts in the weight room because there's so many different qualities in the weight room that can translate to real life. So here I am, 22, never drank, smoked, anything like that.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Transferred to Fargo North, was there for a semester, said I don't like it here. It wasn't that it was too big, it's just like Fargo people compared to small town people are exactly different. Like they're not even close to being similar. And so I actually ended up transferring to Brainerd High School in Brainerd, Minnesota. Lived with my dad and my stepmom at that time and graduated. My junior year was when COVID hit. So people
they graduated you early?
No, we still graduated on time, but my senior year, like it was all online. And I took only college classes. So I really was only in Brainerd school for a semester.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy to think about. Because then, like, these people ask me, like, do you know so-and-so from Brainerd? I'm like, I was there for a semester. I don't know anyone outside of, like, the football players. But after that, I decided I was going to go to Oklahoma State. And there's some really weird connections with Oklahoma State. I like telling my classes or my health classes about like my upbringing because some of them have similar issues, and it's kind of like a good thing to say, hey, you know, this happened to me too, and you can still get out of this. Like we don't need to fall back into that cycle. And so when my mom was going to prison, she got to meet Des Bryant at the airport, like when she was going to prison. And so me being a football fan, I was like, no way. Like, you get to do that, and I'm stuck in Minnesota. And so, like, it didn't really dawn on me, but Des Bryant went to Oklahoma State. And so cool. There's a tiny bit of connection there. She went to prison in Fort Worth, Texas. If I had to pick anywhere to live, it would be Dallas, Fort Worth. And then there was one more connection with OSU. Let me think on that for a minute, and I'll keep talking. But there was one more thing where it was like I need to go to Oklahoma State, like no question about it. So I went down there. I got down there, and like I asked my dad to sign the loan for me, like a Parents Plus loan to pay for school, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing that." And my tuition per semester was like, I think it averaged being $18,000 per semester. So now I'm like, how am I gonna get this paid for? Got a cosigner or whatever. So now I owe Sally Mae $125,000 at the ripe age of 22. But graduated from OSU in 3 years. My major GPA, for people that actually care, was 3.31. I'm not a good student at all. I think my overall GPA was like a 2.8, but like it kind of showed like if you're doing something you actually enjoy, you'll do pretty good at it, or you'll care to be pretty good at it. Probably shouldn't say this, but I had my brother take an algebra test for me, and that passed the class for me. I think I ended up getting like a 71 in the class. He got a 108 on one of my exams right before the final, and the final was like the same exam, and I got like a 55. But the professor was moving to Montana, so he didn't care. He's like, just get it done with. But
Like in person, or this was online?
the first exam was online.
Okay.
It was a take home. You could use your notes, and like I moved to and from each year, and I couldn't fit all my stuff in my car. So I was like, oh, here's a great opportunity. I'm going to drive home on this weekend,
And
drop my stuff off, have him take it, go back, do my other 3 finals, and then go home. And it worked out pretty good.
got to play to your strengths.
Exactly, man. If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Exactly.
But my spring semester of my senior year, I had to do an internship, and I got to do it at Bixby High School in Bixby, Oklahoma. A lot of people have never heard of them. If you're in the high school football game, you know of them because they have won 10 of the last 11 state championships in Oklahoma. They are the 3rd smallest school in their class. So they have about, I want to say it's 2,400 kids, and they'll play schools like Tulsa Union that have 6,000 people
Holy.
and beat the hell out of them in every sport. Like, it is insane. And I didn't even realize Bixby was that good from like a strength and conditioning aspect. I knew they were in football because literally like my second week in Oklahoma, I went to Bixby Jenks, which is like the biggest rivalry in Oklahoma history. Jenks is really good. Bixby's really good. The 2 most storied programs in Oklahoma. And got to see some guys that ended up playing at like OSU, and they had 2 guys that play for Arkansas now. Although I do think they both hit the transfer portal. But Bixby, like, I was really nervous about it, and I don't really get nervous because I knew how good they are at sports. Their women's wrestling team was number 2 in the entire country this year. Their boys wrestling team, when I was there, they had 5 guys that ended up wrestling in the Big 12. 2 of them started as true freshmen at Missouri. And it's
That's awesome.
like you actually have to know your shit to be there. And like I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I got there and I'm like, I don't have a clue on what I'm doing, like, at all. When Coach Myers would ask me, like, have you ever heard of so-and-so or so-and-so? And I'm like, nope. Like, every time he asked, I'm like, man, can you just stop asking? Because every time the answer is no. And then he asked if I knew Charlie Francis, and I said yes. And like this was like the 15th person he had asked me. So I was like, okay, we're starting to learn a little bit. And at that point, I kind of realized if you want to make it in the strength and conditioning game, you have to do external research. You cannot rely on what they teach you in school.
Right. That's almost with any college career.
Right.
Yeah.
But like really in strength and conditioning, you need to. Like if you only follow what they tell you in the book, you are going to be so far behind. You're going to get a client and you're going to be like, what did the CSCS book say? And it's like, that doesn't even apply to you anymore. And you know, I have my thoughts and feelings on the CSCS, but upon graduation, I moved out to Denver. My aunt and her wife live in Denver, and they knew the Colorado Avalanche's strength and conditioning coach. And so I know you're a big hockey guy.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in the hockey setting, whether it was high school, college, pro, preferably pro since we knew the Avs dude. And so I go to intern at the University of Denver, which they're good as shit at hockey. And like literally 2 weeks there, I'm talking with Coach Shaw, and I was like, yeah, dude, like I'm here, I'm ready to learn, but like I really want to get with the Avs because I know their head strength coach. And he goes, yeah, he was fired 2 days ago.
Oh.
And so now I'm like, oh dear. And so this internship's unpaid. My first day there, I walk in and I'm like walking down the stairs and I look straight ahead and I'm like, that's Devon Tays, who, if most people don't know, he's probably a top 5 to 10 defenseman in the NHL. and I just graduated college. I'm like, this is gonna be a fun ass summer. And there was one other guy working out, and so I walked over to him and I was like, no disrespect, but I don't recognize you. Like, are you in the NHL or like what do you do? He's like, yeah, I'm in the NHL. I play for the Ducks. I was like, I don't recognize you. Like, I know Troy Terry, I know Zegras, I know Gibson. It's like, but I don't recognize you. And he looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I'm Troy Terry. And I'm like, I just told Troy Terry, who's on, I think it's like a $60 million contract, I don't recognize you.
I know you,
Yeah,
but I don't recognize you.
I know of your name, but I don't know what you look like. So now I'm like, shit. Like, I hope I didn't piss him off. And another cool connection, like right after I got the internship, Eric Polkamp transferred from Bemidji State to Denver. Him and I were, I think he was a year younger than me at Brainerd, but like everyone knew he was going to be really good at hockey. So now I'm like, dude, like I'm really going to enjoy this because, you know, there's NHL players here. It's top quality hockey guys here, but also like I think back on like CU football, which I don't mean to bring this up, but like if you were to intern there and intern at DU, you're going to get two way different experiences. At DU, like every player but the hockey guys are just there for the free education. Like they don't really have a shot at being pro, and it's not to be disrespectful. It's just it's being truthful. But at CU, man, I could not imagine having the intern with Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter and all that. Like you tell them one thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Why are you touching my footballs?
yeah, like it was a weird perspective, but I was really glad for it. I met a lot of the hockey players. Obviously, I got to work with the men's basketball team, and then like the swim team, and I kind of got exposed to a lot of different sports that I've never really thought of doing for training. But it also kind of made me realize, man, strength and conditioning is so general. Like if you're doing sports specific exercises, it's bullshit and someone's trying to make money off of you. And
You mean like in regards to like, you know, football camp, basketball camp, all that kind of stuff? Like if you're trying to claim the training styles that you're doing are specific to those?
yeah,
Okay.
like exactly that. Like there's this guy, I don't want to say his name, but he does like, he was doing like a good morning once, and he's like, you know, this is a great exercise for my football players because it opens up our hips and like it allows us to like push forward and go make a tackle. And then the other day he did like a Zercher good morning where like you're holding it like this, and he's like, we're holding it here so our hands are ready to go make the tackle. And I'm like, dude, like that's not why we do it.
That was
but,
made
you know,
up as hell.
yeah, it's marketing, man. But I'll finish this last story, and then we can get into the fun stuff. So, like 7 weeks into the internship, I got offered a coaching position at Inglewood High School, a small 2A school, and the guy only hired me because I did strength and conditioning at Bixby. He said, you know, come in. I want you to run our weight room, and you can be our running back and linebackers coach. And I was like, sweet, where do I sign? Like, you're throwing money at me now, and I haven't made like steady income since I was in high school. Like, let's do it. This is a good opportunity. 2 weeks in, he's like, do you want to be our defensive coordinator? And I was like, sure. Add me to the list. And so we played out our year. I ended up getting the middle school health and PE teacher position as well. It was part-time, so I did 2 health classes, 1 PE class. The PE class, I didn't get a choice on what we were doing. Which
they had it set.
They had it set with a dude who was already there, and that's kind of why I had to resign, which I haven't publicly stated that I had to resign or anything like that. But, you know, cameras are on. Let's get after it. But for football, as a defensive coordinator, we gave up 15 points a game. We ended up going 5-4, which to me we should have been way better. We lost 2 games we should have won, so we really should have been 7-2, and we would have gotten bounced in the first round of the playoffs. but we lost one game 6-12 on like the dude scored on the last play of the game, and he was like a whole yard and a half out of bounds, back of the end zone. And then we were playing a private school where Terrell Davis and Peyton Manning's kids go, and we were down 21-0 5 minutes into the game. We ended up losing. We lost by, I think it was 24-34.
Damn.
But like we literally got the 2-point conversion to make it an 8-point game, and they threw a flag on offensive pass interference, and we ran that play 4 times that game, and they didn't call it once. So it was like whatever. We ended up. I don't think we recovered the onside kick, but we were like really close. So it's like, man, like whatever.
Cool to beat those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 3 shutouts. Now I will say the shutouts had nothing to do with us as coaches. We played some really bad teams that if you put an ape as a coach, they would have shut them out. Like, I don't want that to like seem like, oh, I'm really good at coaching. No, the team sucked. But we had 3 total injuries. They were all 3 concussions. 2 of them happened to one player. That kid never showed up in the summer. The other concussion happened to a kid who was maybe there 50% of the time. I guess we did have like a rolled ankle that the guy missed half the game, but he was ready to play the next week. And I say that because, I don't have my CSCS. I'm just going to throw that out there. I do have certifications, not the CSCS.
What does the CSCS stand for?
Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. Like, if I want to go work at NDSU, I need that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really against it because proving that you're competent enough to be a coach based off of one exam is stupid. And then if you actually look at the breakdown of the exam, it's 2 parts. The first one, like 25% is nutrition. You're legally not allowed to give any information on nutrition or like diets or whatever. And then another 25% is like psychological stuff. So 50% of that exam really has nothing to do with strength and conditioning, in my honest opinion. But the main reason why people want a CSCS in the high school and the college setting is people without CSCSs get people hurt. And so, I could take the CSCS if I wanted to. I'll blame it on a money issue right now, because I don't want to pay $400 for an exam. And then like the first take pass percentage is 36%. So, if
$400 each time.
Yeah.
So it'd be like an $800 cert for you if you had to.
If I don't pass it.
Potentially.
Yeah. So, I'm not making a lot, and Sally Mae is on my doorstep, so I don't want it now. I do have like my USA weightlifting, and all that sort of stuff.
And you have a degree.
And I have a degree. Now, the degree doesn't mean you're competent, but, yes, it does at the same time.
Neither does the CSCS.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
It's a cold world.
Yeah.
But, so I kind of proved those guys wrong. Like the guy at DU, he was kind of upset that I was running a weight room without a CSCS, and he's like, dude, you're going to get someone hurt. And it kind of goes back to growing up. Everyone said I was going to be like my parents. I'm going to prove to you that I'm not. So I'm going to prove to you that I'm not going to get these people hurt. We finished the year. We were the only sport out of the fall sports that didn't have a single injury. We were also the only sport that had someone who thinks they know what they're doing running the weight room. Now, I'm not going to totally dump on this school, but I did have to resign. I think it was 2 weeks ago. They brought me in. They said, hey, this meeting was at 11:30 on a Friday. They did like an observation on me. They brought me in. They're like, have you looked at it? And I was like, no, I wanted to look at it with you guys. So if I had any questions, I wouldn't forget it, because like I'm getting to the age where I have to start writing stuff down, or I forget like the questions that I want to ask. And so I pull up the thing. It takes 2 minutes to pull up. By the time it's pulled up, she's handing me a sheet, and she said, we're not renewing your contract. You can either resign or get a non-renewal. And so I'm like, what the hell is a non-renewal? And she said, if you get a non-renewal, it's really hard to get another teaching job, because now we don't have to give a neutral recommendation. There we go. I always forget that word. Or you can resign, and then that's that. And so I was like, well, when do I have to decide by? She's like, by noon. I was like, so I have 30 minutes to decide this with no one told me before, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to, or you're not exceeding the standards that we need you to be at. Here's how to improve. There was none of that. So in my head, I'm like, man, we'll just put non-renewal, whatever. I'll go private sector. I'll do whatever. And at the time, I had 2 interviews with private sector companies. So I was like, yeah, non-renewal. I'll get those jobs.
So wait, this is at a high school?
This is at a middle school.
Middle school. And this is like recent.
This was like 3 weeks ago.
Okay. So they, in your observation, they saw you weren't teaching what the previous gym teacher had been teaching or had set for you to teach, and that's why you had to put in your resignation?
No, it was like the way I ran the classroom wasn't good enough.
Okay.
And
this
like
is for health?
This was for PE. The health one I did really good on. The PE one is where it screwed me over.
Classroom PE?
Well, like in the gym. Like they
No,
still
they
observe
watch.
you in
It's
the
just
gym.
an observation, so the principal or superintendent or whatever comes in and watches.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
sees how you run the
But-
class.
In the PE class.
In the
Yep.
PE class.
Okay.
And here's the thing with the PE class, and this is why like I was actually really upset that this happened, is my PE class was joined or co-jointed, whatever, with another PE class. And the other PE class, that dude's been there for 9 years.
Okay.
When I was there, like in the summer, like I went through everything they had. I was writing out plans, like all that, because when I got there in June to run the high school weight room, they couldn't jump. They couldn't land properly. They can't sprint properly. And I'm like, dude, you're going to get people hurt. Like if you're a freshman in high school and you can't land off of an 18-inch box properly, we have really big issues. And whoever was your PE teacher in middle school sucks at their job. And it needs to change. If you can't sprint properly, and I'm not saying you need to sprint like a track sprinter, but like you got people running like with their arms like this and like stiff. And I'm like, dude, like something needs to change. And when I got the job, the assistant principal who ended up handing me the sheet literally was like, we want you to try to push your ideas on the gym teacher and kind of make it like your own. He shut that down immediately. So I'm like, whatever, I'll go with the flow. We're not even going to make a big deal. I want to leave schools anyways. I want to be in a weight room. Now the high school weight room, here's where it gets really fun. It was being ran by a guy who went to school for nutrition. He has a master's in nutrition. And again, you need a certification to run a weight room. He wasn't certified in anything. And on top of that, he didn't go to school for anything related with strength and conditioning. So now I'm raising red flags because I see the juniors and seniors and I'm like, these dudes they can't back squat right. And I'm noticing this day 1, day 2 of me being in there. So I start raising red flags. And like, I'm like, dude, like something needs to change here. And so you walk out in their gym. This is the best thing. If you're a strength coach, the greatest KPI, key performance indicator, is winning and losing. Do you win or do you lose? If you lose, you're not good at your job. If you win, you're probably good at your job. They have 5 total banners. 3 of them are from 1935 to 37 in football.
Damn.
2 of them are for cheer.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, every single banner they have is from before I was born. And I was born in 03. You walk over, you look at the track record. Nothing had been broken for sprinting in like 60 years. And like, it's not a black and white, or we live in a gray world and I'm trying to be black and white, but like, nothing's working here. There's kids getting hurt. They can't do things properly. You're not winning in any sports. And we should be. We were a 2A school. We were the only public school in Denver that had a turf field by ourselves. That alone should be driving in 10 to 20 kids per class to say, hey, we want to go play at Englewood, which we did have a kid come in from Cherry Creek. Cherry Creek has won, I think it's 2 state titles in a row. They're like one of the better Colorado schools.
That's kind of crazy to have a turf field and win 4 football games. That's
You're telling me. Like it's weird, man.
where are they getting that money from? Like,
Dude,
what?
I don't even know. And like we didn't have a weightlifting class. The one dude ran it. And I went in there at the beginning of the year and I was like, hey, I'm a big advocate of lifting in season. If you don't lift in season, you're wasting your time. If you think the 7 weeks of summer is going to prepare you, there's a reason you're always hurt or why you're weak and whatever. But I was like, hey, can my guys do these lifts during your class, still get credit for it? And like I didn't tell them I don't want them doing what you're prescribing them because it's 3x10 on everything. And the dude sits on his laptop in the corner and doesn't coach. Like I walked in there one day and like some dude was deadlifting and it looked like he was a fat cat. And so he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Sent him the program, printed them out for the kids. Like a week and a half later, the dude emails me. And when I specifically told him about this, I said, if you have any questions, ask. Because I'm glad to help if these kids are going to be lifting in season. Because a lot of these kids were sophomores that were getting a little bit of playing time, but like not enough to where it's like, all right, we're going to kill you in the weight room, get you a lot better, and then we'll see where you're at next year. And like literally a week later, he's like, yeah, they're not doing what they're supposed to, and I don't know what they're doing, so we're not going to do it. And it's like, dude, these kids have lifted for a year. I'm not prescribing anything crazy. Like, if you don't understand what my sheet is saying, you do not belong in there. Like, you are not competent enough to run a high school weight room where people can get hurt if you don't understand what I was programming. And so it was whatever. Season went on, whatever. Off season hits, and we did AM lifting. Start at 6:30. I love waking up early and lifting. So it's like these dudes are gonna get it like that because if you're gonna play in college, workouts are gonna be early. You're not gonna get your 4 p.m. workouts. They're usually at 5 or 6. There wasn't really any issues, and then like maybe a month into it, like I kept getting emails like, hey, stuff's being left out. Can you please pick up after yourself? And like right away I was like, it's not us. Like I'm not even going to entertain that. And so one day, one of I don't remember exactly what he taught, but he was in there with us, and I'm playing music that swears because A, it's before school, but B, if me playing music that swears gets kids in the door, I'm going to do that. Like, if you have a problem with it, I'll change the music. So this dude complained about the music, and then he complained that we left weights out in between sets. But he didn't say it to me. He told it to our athletic director and our football coach. So I go to class, I teach, I come back down to the high school and talk with the football coach, and he tells me about it. I'm like, dude, why can people not just come to me and ask that or tell me that? And so I talked to the dude the next day, and I was like, well, what exactly did we leave out? Because we don't leave anything out. And because right away it was just that we left stuff out. So I was like, well, what did we miss? Because every time I leave, I make sure everything is picked up. And he's like, oh, like when you guys are in between each set, you guys leave the weights out. And like I literally was like, are we being serious right now? And he's like,
So what, like you're like supersetting and you're not putting the weights back?
Yeah. So like the way I program is it's like A1, A2, A3, and you do all 3 in a row, however many sets, and then you're done. But you leave the weights out in between each set because
You're adjusting.
Well, you're adjusting, but also like the way he explained it is like when I do my shoulder raises, I put the dumbbells back right away and then I go to the next thing. And it's like, okay, now do that with 20 kids and tell me how many seconds it takes to put them back, grab them again, put them back, grab them again. Now, if we're doing 5 sets of that, there goes 3 minutes. That's one set. or like that's one group and we do 3 of them. So now that's 10 minutes gone and we're fighting against time because we don't have a class. So it's like you're just bitching to bitch.
And
Like,
go get a gym membership.
that was another, like that was a legit concern that one of my family members said. They were like, why is he even lifting with under 18 kids in there?
It's fine, especially at a small
Yeah.
school, but if it is a problem, this is for the kids, not for you.
Yeah,
Like,
literally. And he would come in and there would be like 5 minutes left to lifting. So me being a smart ass, every time he came in, I played classical music. And so that pissed him off. But it's like, dude, you reap what you sow. You want to complain about me playing King Von? Here's some classical music.
So long story short, you're saying this dude snitched and got you fired.
It wasn't exactly that. It was like everything combined. Like
Okay.
me not agreeing with how the high school was being ran, not agreeing with how the middle school PE was ran, all that sort of stuff. And I did have a conversation with the athletic director, and I was like, listen, man, I'm interviewing at places way bigger than this, way smaller than this. Like, if you can't get me a weight room job, I'm out of here. Like, I'll still coach here, but I'm not doing this part-time health PE stuff where the PE class I can't even do what I want to. And I did tell John this story already, but I did 4 rounds of interviews at Valor Christian High School for a strength and conditioning position. For people who aren't from Colorado, that's where Christian McCaffrey went to high school. And like, I thought I had it in the bag with 4 interviews before, like with everything that I'd done. Like, it takes 2 interviews max, and by the second interview, they're like, here's the paper, sign it. And so like they email me, they're like, hey, sorry, we gave someone else got the position. And so now I go on the staff directory and I'm like, who the hell got this over me? And this girl pops up that wasn't there before, Izzy Nix, athletic performance coach or whatever. And so I was like, click on it to like see what she's done. And it was like University of Auburn cheerleader, and then like F45. And so like right away I'm like, well, she's better looking than me, so there wasn't much there that I could
Like F45 as in the gym, like a hit gym instructor. Oh wow.
And so I'm like, man, who is this person? And so I look her up on Instagram, and I like typed in Izzy and then the N, and like her name pops right up, and it's like 15 people I knew followed her. So I'm like, oh, is this like some strength coach I've never heard of that I'm like lacking on? I click on it. First picture, her and Bo Nix.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And I was like,
Makes sense.
not much I can do about that.
Bo Nix is a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
I know he was recently drafted, but what is in relation to her?
They're married.
Okay.
And so, like, Valor is a very heavily recruited school. Like, they recruit all their kids.
Wild.
So I saw that, and I'm like,
Fair enough.
can't do anything about that. And, like, right away, I was actually really upset about it because, like, I was applying for all these schools in Oklahoma, and, like, they would get people with 15 to 20 years of college experience, not even high school, college experience, getting the jobs over me. And, like, at that point, I'm like, whatever. You got it. You're more qualified than me. You have way more experience. But I see that, and I'm like, really? Like,
cheerleading?
well, not so much that. And it's no disrespect towards her, but it's like the high school I interned at would beat Valor by 42. Clock would be running by halftime, and it's like they're gonna hire someone who's married to an NFL player so they can recruit more kids to go there.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
it's
looking
not
for
even
star power.
Yeah, it's not even
quality.
merit based.
Well, I mean, in Colorado, what do you expect at this point?
Yeah, I mean,
especially
he got
They
drafted to
they all gotta
Broncos,
play
right?
the
Yeah,
prime
Broncos.
time now.
yeah, but also like that is what everyone is trying to do now. They're trying to be a recruiting place where they can get more people to, especially Colorado.
Yeah, but is that a big draw?
So celebrity
Yeah.
is
How is that
like
a big draw?
Deion Sanders?
No, I'm talking about.
Okay,
Bo
so
Nix's wife?
Yeah,
I
how is that
mean-
a big draw?
so think of it this way.
Christian McCaffrey too?
That was
you're-
prior.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
he doesn't go back there that much, I don't think. But think of it this way. Did you play football in high school?
I did. I was really small though.
What position did you play?
Fullback and DN,
Fullback and DN.
and mostly special teams.
So let's think of it this way: the end. Let's say,
hit puberty late.
hey,
Just like a couple years ago.
I never hit puberty. But let's say you're back in high school, and I'm only saying Lawrence Taylor because that's the only good defensive end that pops up in my head, not because you're old. But let's say his wife is coaching at the school that is trying to recruit you, and you play D end. Are you going to want to go to that school because Lawrence Taylor is going to be around that school?
As a high schooler?
As a high schooler. If you have a professional player that will be around that building, you're going to want to go there.
Yeah, it definitely helps
kicking
with the
You
recruiting.
think he's kicking it around there, though?
I bet he will. He's probably going to run camps there. I bet he will.
Definitely.
They didn't
Either
hire
way,
her
they
for-
banked on her relationship to him to potentially get them something.
Yeah.
Well, they
at
can
some point,
easily.
yeah.
They can say, "Hey, could you talk to your husband about getting some of the players over here?" Like it's
yeah.
Will you get him to come have lunch here one day with
Yeah.
the football players?
Literally.
That's all it takes.
So
Yeah,
easy.
I suppose. Hopefully he becomes a stud that he can have more star power. But
Well, even if it's a scrub, dude, like if you can say you're around NFL players in high school, like more power to you.
And just like think of Carson Wentz, like he didn't do anything in the NFL, and people loved him.
And
like
he's filthy rich.
and he's filthy rich.
I mean, he had a good stretch there before he got hurt.
Yeah, he was okay, but that was it. Like then, and that was the first year, second year. Like what? So, and he was going off ads, commercials, all of that. Like that's a big draw. I mean, now they have better talent that has come out of there, so it's different. But it's, I mean, when you're talking Bo Nix, he did fine for what he had. And
He was pretty damn good.
so it'll be.
Pretty damn good.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting. So I have a question for you, and you may not want to answer it, but did you guys recruit at that high school that you were at in Ohio?
In Oklahoma?
Oklahoma? My bad.
No. Not that I
Not that
know,
you know
of. So here's the thing with Bixby, which I'm actually very glad you asked that. So when you're in middle school at Bixby, you have to lift weights. You have to take their weightlifting class, which I think is a great thing. There was 3 middle school classes, so they had 2 weight rooms. They had the main one, and then they had an auxiliary one. And they would literally have 3 middle school classes in each of them. And every single day, except I think there was one day they didn't do it. Now, I only interned there Tuesdays and Thursdays because that was the only time it worked for classes. And Bixby was an hour and a half away from Stillwater. So Tuesday and Thursday, I'd wake up at 4 a.m., go to Bixby, be there all day, drive back, and be like, what am I doing, man? Like, I'm tired as shit. And one more story. I like to tell stories a lot. That's why
We like to hear him.
Okay, good. But my first day at Bixby, like I'm tired because I'm not used to waking up at 4 a.m., driving an hour and a half. And so I'm sitting there waiting for 0 hour to start. 0 hour started at 7:10. And I see some K-State coaches walk in. The man in the front was Connor Riley. And I was like, I know that dude very well. And so I quick text my grandpa. I'm like, first day at Bixby, Connor Riley is here. And he goes, tell him I said hi. So we waited, and they were there to recruit a lineman who signed to play at Auburn on a full ride. I want to say he wasn't a 5-star. He was a 4-star, but pretty damn good. He was like John's size as a junior in high school at the time. And I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
this dude's fucking huge. But so I walk up to him, and he introduces himself, and I'm like, I'm Aiden. You don't need to introduce yourself. I know exactly who you are. And he's like, oh, how so? And I was like, well, I'm from Brainerd. Joe Haig, I'm sure you've heard of him. For those who don't know, Connor Riley was the NDSU O-line coach when they started having really good offensive linemen, went to K-State with Chris Kleiman, produced really good offensive lineman at K-State, and now, like literally a month or two ago, he signed with the Dallas Cowboys to be their offensive line coach. And so I'm like, dude, I know exactly who you are. You don't need to introduce yourself. And so I told him Brainerd, and I was like, you recognize Joe Haig? And he's like, he's mesmerized because I'm wearing an OSU sweatshirt in Bixby, Oklahoma. And he's like, how the fuck does this dude know Joe Haig from Brainerd, Minnesota? And so I was like, man, I watched NDSU growing up. Like, I think you're a phenomenal coach. And like, I had to throw in the jab. I wish OSU would write you a blank check so we would actually have good linemen. And we started laughing about that. And he's like, no, we got to get you in out of that ugly ass orange and get you into some purple. And I was like, dude, I would be down to rock with K-State. And so he was asking me like what I was doing and whatnot. And I was like, dude, this is literally my first day interning here. And I was like, I've been up since 4. I'm tired, like trying to get used to everything, but also like in a completely new environment. And he gave me some great advice that I'll never forget. And he's like, dude, I respect the hell out of you for doing this because you're going to find out how bad you really want this shit. And like part of me is like, how can you swear? But at the same time, like you're a football coach, like you're going to swear regardless. And so we talked about life. I mentioned that I played at Lemoore for 2 years, and he immediately goes, Andy Delabar coaches there, right? I was like, yep. I was like, what year did he play? And he goes, I think it was 04 to 08 or something like that. And he's like, and he was a tight end. And I'm like, how the fuck does this dude know who Andy Delabar is? Because he didn't really play in college. I think he started his senior year, but like he wasn't no
standout.
Yeah, and he played tight end. Like I'm trying to think of NDSU tight ends, but I can't even think of any. But I'm like, the fact this dude knows exactly who that is, like, is mind-boggling to me. And so get a picture with him, get his phone number, and he's like, call me when you graduate. Let's get you at K-State. And so at that point, like, my whole mindset shifted of, do I belong here to I belong here, and it's time to bust my ass. Like, the schooling, cool, whatever, but now I'm actually learning. You learn by doing. You don't learn by reading books. You don't learn by listening to someone tell you how to do it. If you have to listen to someone telling you how to do something, you don't know what you're doing. And that's kind of how I taught. Like I would tell them, this is what's going to happen if you smoke or if you vape or, you know, pick whatever subject you want. This is what's going to happen if you don't. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't. You get to decide that. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's not going to happen. And like, I wish growing up more people were like that for me. Like, everyone wants to be told what to do, like, with their decision making. It's like, we can't live in a world like that because A, no one thinks for themselves after that, but B, you're relying on other people to live your life for you. And so after that, my whole mindset on strength and conditioning kind of changed. And I kind of dove into like the deeper discussions of weightlifting. And like just some things off the top of my head that I wish I would have learned differently before. So when I was growing up, I didn't really have a strength coach. And I thought, you know, muscles were like the greatest thing. Like, that's the only thing you have to focus on. Like, you need optimal range of motion, tension, all that shit. No. If you want to be good at sports, the muscles do matter, but your nervous system is way more important than your muscular system. And even in college, they really didn't teach you that. And so the Charlie Francis guy that I had mentioned, he does something called a high-low model. He was a track coach. I think it was at Baylor. Produced really good athletes. But I learned this high-low system with him, or not like with him, but from him. And I was like, dude, like, this is how training should be. Like, you're doing full body lifts every single day, 5 days a week, or however many days a week you want. You go a really high nervous system stimulus, a very low nervous system stimulus. So like a very high would be like max effort verticals, depth drops, depth jumps, you know, whatever you want. That's really going to overstimulate your nervous system to where you're almost like gassed at the end of it, neurologically, not physically. But then the next day you do like a bench press, where like it's not as taxing on your nervous system. And so like I started diving into that, and there's a guy on Twitter called Strength Debates, which if you wanna see a big motherfucker that knows what he's talking about, you need to follow him. But we were talking about hypertrophy and how not all hypertrophy is created the same. And so like I was reading this discussion, I was like, dude, like in high school, I did high weight, low reps, lots of sets, and like I could take 6 months off of lifting and you wouldn't notice that big of a change in my physique. But like with my arms, like I would do like 3x10, 3x15, whatever, they would get really big. And if I didn't do that for, let's say, a month, like I would lose all the size. And so I dug into some more research on that, and it comes down to myofibular hypertrophy versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And so sarcoplasmic is like your 3x10. That's only water. So the second you quit doing that, you're going to lose all that because it's just water. Now, the myofibular, this is where like the really high weight, low reps come into play. That is literally increasing your myofibular number within the muscle. And once that's there, it's there. Like you don't really lose it. And so that started answering my question on why I could lift or why I could not lift for a few months and not notice any changes. Think of it like, I'm trying to think of it really, without saying like my muscles are more compact than yours. Like think of like a balloon with like straws in it, and then there's water in the balloon. So if you're doing sarcoplasmic hypertrophy or 3x10, you're only filling the balloon with water. You poke one hole in it, you lose all the water. Myofibular, you're putting a bunch of straws in there. You poke the hole in the balloon with the straws in there, the size doesn't change. And, you know, we can get into the physiological aspect of it where, you know, now you're producing more force, you're getting stronger, but you're still getting hypertrophic gains from doing that. And kind of the way I do it, which this is very unorthodox, is we do like just to give something really a very basic example, like we would do a 9x3 on a bench. So 9 sets of triples, you'd get like a minute of rest in between. So now you're hitting 27 reps. Well, in school, they're like, if you do 6 to 12 reps, you're going to get hypertrophy. Not exactly. Because like you can ask people like, if you're doing 1 through 5 reps, are you going to get hypertrophy? Most will say no. And it's like, what do you think's happening to the muscle? Like it's just not going to grow. And so
when you're doing low reps like that, are you doing it like time under tension, or is it just all up and down?
Or it's just all high intensity in general?
With the guys that I was working with in the off season, it was all just up and down. Like it's kind of West Side where it's like, I want you to move that bar as fast as you possibly can. And if I had a whiteboard, this would be really easy to explain. But like for us, the program we were running right before I left, we did 4 sets we started at 80%. So we did 4x3 at 80%. You get a minute of rest in between each thing, but you would also do an accessory. So like right before I left, we were doing bench, and then we were doing drop push-up catches. So you're dropping from a box, landing in the bottom of a push-up position. You do that for 4 sets. Then we get into 4 sets of what I call APRE3. APRE is a system made by Brian Mann. He is a professor at Texas A&M. He was at Missouri, Miami, Florida, all that. Bixby ran what he does, and I took the idea of it, but I made it my own thing. So again, I'm thinking for myself. I'm like, dude, this stuff works, but I'm not going to do it exactly how he said it. So like the way he did it is like APRE3, you're doing, and I don't remember half of it off the top of my head, but like you do 3 sets, 2 of them at a specific percentage. Like I think the first one was like 10 reps at 50% or something like that. And then you like gradually go up. And then you do an APRE set where it's like, if you get 5 reps, you add more weight. If you get 5 reps, you add 10 pounds. If you get 4 reps, you add 5. 3, you stay the same. 2, you -5. 1, you -10. 0, you're done. And so I kind of took that model and I switched it to how I kind of view it should be. And so we did we did that last, like, man, I wish I had a whiteboard. The 4th set at 80%, let's just say we're doing a bench. So that 5th set, or the first APRE set, you're going to do the APRE 3 at that same weight that you just did the 4 sets at. And so, like, the easiest way to explain this is the rep cap on the first 2 sets of the APRE is 5. Most people, if they're strong and in condition and I'm doing my job, they're going to hit those 2 just fine. And if you hit 5, you add 10 pounds, so 5 to each side. If you hit 4, you add 5, you get the point. And you keep going, but after that second set of APRE, the rep cap drops by 1 rep each set. So set 3 of the APRE 3, your rep cap is 4. And then the last one, it's 3. And so we had that stud that transferred in. He started doing that really well, like to the point where I was like, I don't want to leave this school because you're going to be really fucking good. But he was doing 22 reps at 80% like it was nothing. And I know what you're thinking, man, he got rest in between. If you rest for a minute in between, it's not really rest. But also, back to this hypertrophy thing, if you can get 24 to 32 reps in a session, you're going to get hypertrophy. It doesn't matter how many breaks you take. If you're getting that many reps at a certain weight, you're going to get bigger and you're going to get stronger, which is what I like. Now, if you're doing 3x10 on something, you're probably not going to get that much stronger because you can't stimulate your nervous system and all that sort of thing. Let me actually pull this sheet up if I can. I don't think I have sheets downloaded, but bless you.
Sometimes, back when I was like really lifting heavy, I shouldn't have been lifting this heavy, but at the time, my coach was really into like heavy lifting, low reps.
Mm-hmm.
But I was strong as an ox. It was back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really look like a bodybuilder. You remember that? Like I was really blocky, but I was like really strong. I was doing 6 to 8 reps, just heavy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that was definitely when I was at my strongest.
Yeah. And like for us, at the end of the day, I had the indicator of saying you're not doing more, or, hey, that looked easy as shit. Let's go one more set of that. And like, I just love using bench because like the numbers are so easy. When we maxed out before we started this, and I left 3 weeks into the program, so like kind of shitty timing because it's halfway through, but he maxed at 215. By week 3, he was doing 215 for 3 reps. And you take that base weight, hold on here. I can't multitask. So we started at 80%. The next week we went 85% for the 4x3. Then we went 90, and then they went 95, 100, all the way up to, it's either 105 or 110, whatever 6 weeks is. And the easiest way to kind of predict your max is every rep of that original max that you had, your maxes went up 10 or 5 pounds per rep. So when he was doing 215 for 3,
yep,
I'm like, okay, you should hit 225 because you've added 2 reps in the 3 weeks.
Sure.
So he tries 225 and got it like it was nothing. I was like, it works. Hold on here. Let me,
That's awesome.
Let me see here. Is this the one? No, it's phase 3. All right, so if you want to take my phone, you can look at it, but we would do, so you do 2 prep sets. We don't call them warm-up sets. Warm-up sets, you hear warm-up set and you're going to be like, oh, I don't care, whatever. Let's do the bar. Let's do a 25. The prep sets, I literally want them being ready to do their first set right then and there after 2 warm-up sets or prep sets, whatever you want to call them. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Joe Ken, but I kind of got the prep sets idea from him because I listened to him in February when he was in Kansas. And like I've noticed, if you tell people to warm up, they don't put anything on the bar. They think they're ready to go. No, we need progressive prep sets before so we can get ready to go into it. And so we did 4. I should have mentioned this. We did 4x3. Did I already mention that?
I think so.
Only 3 reps. And so at the end, it would be 105% of their max. Now, the guy didn't text me what he did today. Or wait, what day is it? Thursday. He didn't text me what he did yesterday, because that's when we bench was on Wednesdays. But at the end of it, you'll be surprised that you'll hit 105 for 3 reps for 12 reps. Like, it is genuinely insane, and it blows your mind. And it kind of ties in with Prilipin's chart. Are you guys familiar with that?
Nope.
So can you pull it up on there by chance? So Prilipin was like a Russian.
How do you spell it?
Try to sound it out.
Yep, there we go.
There it is.
It's like, it's Russian, man. I don't know how to spell that. Go on images. Now it's kind of hard because you got to find the right one. I think that 4th chart. Go one more down. Yep.
This one?
Nope. To the left. Right there. Yep. So, let's see, where's it at? So, we ended up doing 12. We did 17 reps at 80%. The range is 10 to 20 reps. And then we did 5 extra reps at 85%. And I actually lied. We can keep this chart up here. I can kind of explain it from here. But it's supposed to be 80 to 89%, is 10 to 20 reps. So we're actually hitting 22 reps because you're doing your 12 and then two 5s. So we're a little more than what he wants us to do. Again, this is where you have to think for yourself. If you're a football player, do you think lifting 185 20 times is going to get you through a game? Or are you going to get your ass kicked in the 4th quarter? So, again, we need to use these things, but we also have to think for ourselves, like, man, 20 reps at 80%, and that's going to be your every play. We gotta do something more than 20. And then the 90. Oh, this doesn't have the optimal one on there. Damn it. But the 90%, we'd literally hit 7, and like the optimal on the chart is 7 reps for 90 to 99%. And so it's like, I don't like, that's not the right one because it says 70 to 80 and then 80 to 90. Do you notice how that's on there twice? Go that second one. One more up from there with like the green thing. We'll follow that one. 7 optimal total reps. So again, I can say I'm smart because we're hitting the optimal, but we're also getting more volume than what it says. And again, that's one of those things where I don't care because it's football. You're going to have to repeat that over and over and over and over again. And you can even break it down based off of how many pounds they're lifting. And this kid, like, he was lifting 6,000 pounds with his shoulder in one session, and then we go to bench 2 days later and he's doing 6,000 again. So it's like, if we can get used to that, and it's only going to go up from here because we keep progressing, you start dividing that by, I like to just use 185. He's a box safety, so he's going to have to play against linemen. But 185 is like a good example of how many plays you'll get before you're tired. Right. And you could say this is completely false, and you might be right, but he's at about 33 plays at 185, and it's March. We have plenty of time to get where we need to be before the season if I was still there. But it's really interesting because everything kind of ties into each other. Like, it's simple, but it's complex at the same time. And in school, they didn't tell us about Prilipin. They didn't tell us about Vergashansky. They didn't tell us about any of that. They just said optimal range of motion, muscles, FMS, functional movement screening, total scam. They're trying to get money out of you. And then what was the other one that they like to do? Knees over toes. I hope you guys are knees over toes fans.
Aren't or are?
Aren't.
Aren't knees over toes?
Like, I hope you're not a fan of them.
What is that?
Okay.
Like
we're
doing
good.
it or being a fan of it?
Like, well,
What do you mean?
So doing it is perfectly fine. So this guy named Ben Patrick runs knees over toes, and like the whole idea is if you have knee pain, you need to move your knee over your toe.
Is that the guy who came up with the reverse hyper knee to the ground thing?
And I'm like,
so like if you're squatting, like
I was always told the knees can't go over the toes.
okay,
yeah, so that's what
yeah. Now that's completely false.
I heard that too.
Yes.
I heard that was
So that's another conversation. But like these, and the guy that I was telling you about, like the Zurcher Good Mornings, he's one of their coaches. And like it's this whole idea that it's a one size fits all. If you have any knee pain, you need to do reverse sled carries or drags, whatever you want to call them. You need to do split squat, knees over toes. It's like, dude, and tib raises. These.
Oh yeah.
They're like that will eliminate your knee pain. It's like, no, that's not how it works at all. And we can really get into injuries because that's stuff I really enjoy researching.
Yeah.
But like to say if you do this one thing, you're going to get all your pain away. It's like, man, and then kids listen to that and then they get hurt cuz they're not used to anything else. Like one guy that I was telling John about, I'm not going to say it on here because his fan base will attack you and sit in your comments, and it's like,
good.
All right. There's a guy, his name's Mike Boyle. Like if you read on some of the stuff he says, it is like it's asinine what he says, and like people respect him. And like if you ask ChatGPT like the top 5 strength coaches of all time, I think they list him as like number 2 or 3. But like this dude says you can't front squat, you can't deadlift, you can't lift up heavy weights from the ground, you can't bend your spine. Like there's so many you can'ts that he's telling you to do. And like I really like Zurcher, squats, good mornings, whatever it is. If you can Zurcher it, good, because now you're getting your trap development in. And if you strengthen your traps, you reduce the I want to word this correctly. You reduce the chances of a concussion. It's not significant. Every pound in neck/upper back muscle you get, it's about a 5% decrease. But like still, our only injury was concussion. So now I'm like, I need to figure out how to do this. But he's like, no, we don't do Zurchers because it hurts your elbow. And he's like a big no back pain. That's why he says don't back squat. So they use sandbags instead, and they hold it the exact same way. And I'm like, dude, like I'm glad you're regressing the movement, but like when you're Zurcher squatting 300 pounds, like you're not going to get that with the sandbag. Like you're going to have to put 15 sandbags on your elbows, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But like there's so many you can't do this that I don't like. America's fat as hell, and saying you can't do a certain movement makes the problem worse. And I'm going to make fun of Fargo. I'm not used to obese people at all. Like, there's not very many in Denver, and so I get here, and I'm like, dude, everyone here is fat. Like, it's bad. Oh,
it's that alcohol.
It's true.
I say that to my wife all the time when we go to some typical places that a lot of people go to.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, it's just disgusting.
What do you expect though from a top 5 drinking, state, let alone city?
And it's cold then 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, and it's cold 6 months out of the year, but these people are in bars and they're eating bar food and drinking alcohol like crazy. And they do that into their 60s and 70s here. It's crazy.
It is. It's wild. And like when we go other places, even in the cities like Minneapolis, like we'll walk everywhere. But here, that's not really an option.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can, but it's a far walk, and it's not going to be comfortable. But so
Have you seen the show The Boys?
Yeah.
So you know Homelander, when he just like does like, that's what I do when I go out to. I see people, I'm just like,
yeah, it's bad. I'll go into a lot of the times it's Target or like something like that, and I'm just like, we gotta get out of here, bro. We gotta get out. I just like can't, or like walking slow, and they're fat, and I'm like,
And they drive slow.
Or when they're driving like asshats and you pull up and they're eeding while they're driving and shit, and you're like, fuck, I thought you were on your phone. Yeah. You're just moving the wrapper down on your burger and shit.
I hate how slow people drive here. And it could be that I'm just used to Denver.
No, they have bro, I'm from LA. And I've traveled the world and I've driven in other countries. Fargo, North Dakota has the worst drivers on the planet. I'm not even the most, with all this Minnesota or Midwest nice nonsense, bro. They got some of the most disrespectful drivers here who have no kindness in them whatsoever. They don't want to let you in on a fucking, zipper merger. They don't want to let you change lanes. If you turn your blinker on, they speed up so you can't come into their lane. Like, you name it, bro. I have a dash cam simply because I'm keeping record.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I have tons of videos saved in this file of shitty Fargo and Moorhead drivers, bro.
The stuff they're doing to the interstate, we're getting so off topic, but it's like making it so much worse. Like the to get off on 25th. It's like
the 2 lanes.
Yeah, I can't even get over.
One of them serves like 3 purposes for different directions, though.
I'm like, why are we doing this?
And then there's a yield sign. That's like the most confusing part. And Denver has a road like that to get to the airport. Mm-hmm. And it's like every time I went to the airport, like there was an accident because it's like whoever engineered this with their 16 letters after their name is an idiot. Like, they don't drive. Like, there's no way they do.
Yeah, we were in Denver, and our Uber, he had subs in his car, and I was really hungover because it was my bachelor party, and he got us there in a jiff. It was quick, and we were really far away. So, but the roads did seem very odd. One thing about Denver, lots of homeless there. I was like, and not even homeless, they were drug addicts.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. I was just shocked. Like, we're on Lime scooters just zipping through all these homeless. I'm like,
those are fun.
I'm like, yeah, we're having such a good time as they're messed up. And I was like, oh, this is just not it. It wasn't a good vibe. But I did like Denver. It was a good spot.
I really did like Denver, especially in the summer. So I like it hot as hell. Mm-hmm. Like, I went to Vegas 2 summers ago, like right before I turned 21. So I couldn't gamble. So I was like, man, we'll walk up and down the strip. It was like 120 degrees and I'm not even sweating, which it's because it's dry heat. But like, I wasn't hot at all. I'm like, turn it up 15 degrees. Like, let me actually get hot. And so the summers in Denver, it's like 100 degrees, but it's like less than 10% humidity. So you can wear a sweatshirt and you're not even sweating. And it's like, I love this. But yeah, the homeless thing is a huge issue.
It's bad.
And like that, like probably what you saw was like 2 blocks from our school.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
we traveled throughout the whole, like all of downtown Denver. We were on the Lime scooters for a minute. Like, and that was on top of walking. So we went to a street fair and like, that was nice. The park was beautiful. Tons of people. And then on our way back, it was just so many homeless. Yeah. But it's not even regular homeless. Like, these were all people that were on drugs. Like, so it's tough. It makes you sad.
So that's humanity. Why they're all not obese there. They're all strung out.
There was a lot. It was you think Minneapolis, like downtown, is bad. This was something.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I will say I laugh at people who say Minneapolis downtown is bad because it's like, I can tell you don't go anywhere. Like, Minneapolis is nothing.
It is bad there though,
it's
right?
Bad.
It's bad
but it's
there
not
now.
nearly as bad.
Denver was worse.
But yes,
Denver,
there's a lot of worse
Austin.
places for sure. But for Minneapolis, it's bad. This isn't like to compare it to other cities because I'm from LA. You want to see bad, bro.
Go out
but Minneapolis is a shit show for Minneapolis, bro.
No,
From what it used to be pre-George Floyd to now, it's an absolute shit show.
The biggest issue is the buildings are also really shitty. So it's like shitty buildings with homeless in front of them. It's not any better. Like Denver, at least, like this is like main nice street. Building, you're not you're not in the ghetto. So
So before we go, we're getting near the end here, but I want to just talk a little bit more about some of the fundamentals that you're talking about regarding training. How does this translate for you, like in the bodybuilding world now, in building muscle and things like that? Does this kind of system work the same? Because I notice a lot of these for the Prilipin or whatever, it's like for powerlifting too. They mention.
Yeah, it would work really well for powerlifting.
So this is more strength building than anything, right? Like not muscle building per se.
Right, but
Because you hear techniques like this for muscle building too, you know, like
Yeah.
M-tut and you know, failure and all that different stuff, you know, so like it's kind of similar.
It's kind of similar, but I would say like all that stuff is more advanced. Like this is, and I'm going to give a very good quote. Any idiot can make another idiot tired. Vergashansky says that. This is kind of like, I want you to get adaptations using the least amount of stimulus possible. So if you, like bodybuilders, they need a shit ton of stimulus. They need to go to failure a lot. This is where it's like, we don't really want to go to failure. We want to achieve neural outputs, neural drive, stuff like that. But we don't really want to achieve failure.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's kind of like, it's more complex because it's with your nervous system, but like it's not as complex as like all the bands and shit like that.
Sure. Dion loves bands training.
I love bands. It's so beneficial, and everybody doing 4 plates on the side with bands reverse is so strong, and they're getting it beneficial. So big. Their muscles are so huge, and I'm so jealous. So it's crazy how many people are so strong because of that. So
yeah, bands are very good. And
I was sarcasm completely.
That was sarcasm?
Yeah, it was good.
No way.
It was really good. I'm not a huge fan of the bands.
Bands are really good though.
They've got a time and place. I won't say
on machines even you're referring to, or just bands training. So like what he's referring to is people use bands on machines that already have resistance.
Yeah, so like a leg press is what a lot of people.
That's dumb.
Not a leg press. They do it on a leg press too.
Yes, hack squats, leg press, all that.
Okay.
So
I mean, put it on a bar. Let's do that.
I've done it on the squat, and
it's brutal.
bad.
It's all eccentric.
The biggest thing with like injuries and stuff. So I blew up my left knee when I was in high school. Went to physical therapy, and like learning about stability and just overall connective tissue in the knee and what holds it together, and keeping those strong was important for me to like realize, well, that's how the whole body works.
Right.
It's about strengthening all aspects, which when you're on a machine that only moves one way and you're using a band, is not doing much. It's not like you're training to be an athlete where you're working on explosion or neurological stuff. You're literally just using a band to look like you can lift more weight at that rate. There's very minimal
supposed to help
gains.
you out of the box or whatever. Or
but that's
out of the bottom.
That's explosion.
Overloaded eccentric. So like the easiest way that I word eccentrics is like, that's how you stop. So if you can overload on an eccentric, that usually shows that you're pretty damn strong, but also that you have the ability to stop, and I don't want to say you're not going to get hurt as frequently, but like it diminishes your rates of injury by a lot. So think of when you're starting at the top with a band, just guess any weight you want. It's going to be the heaviest at the top. So when you go down, now the band, all the tension is being released. So when you're at the bottom, it's the lightest it'll ever be, and you can explode up. And like West Side does that and all that. And I do think with barbell movements, it's very beneficial, but like machines, if there's one thing about me, you'll never see me on a machine or training someone on a machine, even if you're hurt.
The biggest thing is, and especially because a lot of our focus is going to be bodybuilding for at least me, I'll speak for myself. When I see bodybuilders or people who want to be bodybuilders do that, I don't see a reason for them to be doing such a movement. There are other movements that would be more beneficial. But for someone who's trying to build strength and power and develop a better output of power at one time, I think it's beneficial for sure.
Absolutely.
But in the regard of me being a bodybuilder with bigger legs, I don't think it's going to help me out that much.
It's not going to do much. And yeah.
But yeah, no, I get it. I think
you finally just got some confirmation clarity on that.
Yeah, no, I was
they're an idiot.
I wasn't gonna fall for it, dude. You know, I get people want to stroke their egos, so that's a big thing.
It looks cool, and they saw their favorite fitness influencer do it, and so
which
they run with it now.
That's a good point. Most of the stuff that people post on fitness stuff, whether it's athletics, bodybuilder, they don't do that shit. Like, let's make that clear. Whatever they're posting, they don't actually do that.
Right.
That is for attention. Like, let me ask you this with your knee. Did they ever have you go on a Bosu ball?
No.
Okay.
No. So my lady was really good.
I was going to say you had a good one. So, like, One argument I've actually gotten into with a guy that I used to work for and a few other people is like, they're like, oh, standing on a Bosu ball, that makes it so you're training like your stabilizers and you're getting better balance. It's like, no, you are learning on how to stand on an uneven surface. And one of the first things you learn in strength and conditioning is the SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. If you want to be a better balancer, you have to balance on one foot. You don't have to balance on an uneven Bosu ball. Like, it's insane that you tell these people this and they're like, oh, well, this study shows. Fuck a study, first of all. Those studies are 6 weeks long. Athletic development and really any development takes 2 years if done right. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. 6 weeks, you're not going to get that much of a change unless, like, you pulled some random dude out of a school and was like, hey, do you want to come do this study? And then also they're getting these studies from the people who literally made the thing. So it's like there's already bias involved in that.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm learning about studies and research is that they're all biased and they all have a bunch of bullshit, payments that have been made to the person doing the research by the person who wants the outcome. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, that's real science. Go ahead.
So here's a crazy thing with kind of what we were talking about the other day. So I think like all the water recommendations are funded by Coca-Cola. I think you're not supposed to drink as much water as they say you should.
Oh, I'm kind of gearing towards that research too.
And so I never cramp. I eat a lot of sodium. I eat a lot of potassium, and I drink like minimal amounts of water, and I sit in the sauna all the time. So like I should be cramping based off of
or dehydrated at least.
Yeah, and I mean I don't piss clear. It's a little yellow, not quite the lemonade color you want, but it's like, do you really need to drink that much water that they're saying? And I did some DEXA scans in college, and like you had to pee to take the scan, and so like I would literally have to drink a ton of water to pee. Because one time I peed before I went there, and I was like, oh, nice. I was holding that in all morning, and yeah. So I had to drink, like, a ton of water right away, and they're like, yeah, it might not be entirely accurate because you pissed out part of your skeleton, which, not to fearmonger anyone, but that's what happens when you drink too much water. Like, there's certain stuff in your pee, and it's literally basically your skeleton. And it's like, why do we need to drink so much water?
Interesting.
Because Coca-Cola funds it.
Yeah.
And they can sell water.
Like half of the medical industry, Coca-Cola funds.
Yeah. And I don't drink tap water at all.
Really?
Yeah.
What water? Because of the fluoride?
Well, okay, so that, but also there was this guy, and it was a YouTube video, but then I actually ended up looking up the study.
Wait, then do you drink, if not out of tap, you drink plastic bottled water?
Yeah, so you got me there.
What? I was going to say, so is it glass bottles?
No. So here's my reasoning for it. I'm fine with whatever the plastics they call, what is it?
Microplastics. Yeah.
I'm fine with that in my system. There was a study done on the water. I don't remember where it was, but like they found Plan B and stuff like that in the water, and I'm like, I don't need that. And then I don't. I'm not pregnant, surprisingly. I don't know if I can say that on here now.
Yeah, you're good.
Gonna get us canceled. But
like we would have been canceled a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
They put, it was either fish or frogs in like a thing of water. It was 10. I think it was fish.
Turned them gay.
It's Alex Jones.
Turned them into women.
It turned them into women, and they were men. And I said, I'm never drinking tap water ever again.
It turned male fish into female fish.
My question is, where was that water?
Tap water.
I think the water around here is pretty good.
Okay, wait. So why don't you just, instead of drinking plastic bottled water, why don't you drink filtered water? You think the filters don't do what they should do?
They probably do.
Like a reverse osmosis or something definitely would. Yep.
That's what the plastic water bottles are.
Yeah, but it's the plastic that's fucking them up.
Hopefully, I was gonna say,
You're probably loaded with microplastics in your testes.
Yeah, they just sit in your nuts, so that's not good. You don't want that. You want to have kids someday?
You don't need the Plan B anymore.
Yeah.
Or a vasectomy.
Listen, so yeah, get a purifier on your tap water and try that at least. Because why plastic bottles?
Listen, we're all gonna die one day.
It's true. I just want to live as long as possible. Once you have kids, it changes everything, though. You know what I mean? Like, I remember not giving a fuck and being like, dude, I don't care. I'm ready to die whenever, you know, especially when I was doing street shit. Once I had a kid, I was like, man, how do I live forever now? You know, because I got to protect these kids. I got to grow old with them. I got to look after my grandchildren. Like, all that stuff starts to come into play. And then you know, when you become a conspiracy theorist, like the journey we've taken for so long, you start to see everything and go, okay, yeah, like, everything's a setup in society, you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to make us sick, they're trying to poison us, they're feeding us garbage, you know, and the science and the research is all lies. You can't even trust the science anymore or the scientists, because they're all bought into their own bullshit these days. And so it's like, you know, is there good research out there? Is there good studies out there? Yes, for sure there is. But the majority of what gets to come out is not. You know what I mean? The good research gets you know, swept under the rug because it didn't fit the narrative that they want to put out, and so then they bring in the bad research. So yes, good research does happen, but it doesn't ever make the mainstream because it goes against,
push their agenda.
Exactly, it doesn't
it's
push
like
the agenda.
Sunlight, like when did that become a bad thing?
Yeah, COVID.
Like,
don't get vitamin D, the very thing that everyone's deficient of when they're dying of COVID.
And
sunscreen is the huge.
Sunscreen is the biggest culprit.
I don't wear sunscreen.
Yeah, I
and
don't
when
either.
I went to Denver, my aunt and her wife were like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I was like, "Listen, I don't think you get sunburnt from the sun. Like, I think
it's the food you're eating.
Or not that. Hold on. Let me backtrack here. I don't think the sun will give me cancer. I think the sunscreen will."
Yeah.
And I was reading something, like, this was 3 years ago, where it was saying that sunglasses cause sunburn, not the sun. And I was like, wait a minute. Read more into it, and they were saying that when you're wearing sunglasses, it is it's blocking out the UV light into your eye. And so then your eye is thinking, oh, it's not sunny out. I don't need to tell the cells in my skin to protect themselves.
Ooh, interesting.
And then you get burnt. And so I was like, that makes sense. Now, I'm not smart in that stuff, but I was like, I'm going to try it on myself once. And this was when I was still doing kicking camps every weekend. So we go to Omaha. I don't wear sunglasses at all. Not sunburnt. We go to Kansas City the next week. I wear sunglasses and I'm burnt to hell.
I'm going to try that this summer.
You should.
Malcapalooza.
Yeah.
Mountain Palooza. Hey, did you invite Dalton to Mountain Palooza? You should.
I don't know if we have room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to do tents.
We'll have to.
He has a tent for
Yeah.
him and Chase, but
Okay.
everybody else is shacked up.
Chase said, I'm going to sleep in my car. Either way, let's talk about that at a different time.
I will say I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to what I'm saying. I'm just thinking for
He's
myself.
a doctor, everybody. Listen to what
I
he's saying.
actually have a buddy who's going to be a doctor, and he said, I work outside, or I worked outside more before, and he was like, you really should be wearing sunscreen like every day on your face at the very least. And I said, I'm not going to do that.
I'm not doing that.
Doctors aren't what they used to be, man.
Yeah, he explained the science to me that they share with him in school, obviously, and I was just like, but
could be
think about
convoluted, too.
Exactly, but think about all the stuff that they put in sunscreen, and he wears sunscreen every day, even though he doesn't work outside. He walks a lot, but I was like, I just can't get myself to put sunscreen on my face. I don't even put lotion on, like, ever. It's just not something. Why would I want to clog my skin up with lotion? Makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but I guess
crazy.
It's weird. You use body wash and stuff though, right?
Yeah.
See, and that's where me too.
And here's a cool thing, and I noticed this doing the sauna. My last year at OSU, I did 45 minutes a day. I wore a sweatshirt. That's probably why I like it hotter than hell. But I started noticing, like, and this is going to be disgusting to the average person, I would go home after the sauna, I'd lay down, I'd drink 1 bottle of water, and I'd just lay there. And normally I'd fall asleep because, like, after the sauna, dude, I'm ready to pass out. It makes me tired as shit. But I would, like, wake up in the middle of the night and I wouldn't stink at all. After I just did a really hard workout and 45 minutes of straight sweat, and I wouldn't stink at all. I'm like, do I have to shower anymore? Like, just go to the sauna every morning and that's the shower. And, you know, there's a lot of science behind it. You're getting rid of toxins and all that. But it's like, do I really need to use body wash anymore?
Interesting.
That's the weirdest one too, because it's like you're rubbing it on your balls, your butthole, like,
Dick.
yeah. That's just like it can't.
Or do you not wash yours?
I just leave. Yeah. I just get the balls and I hold my dick up like this.
You're like, Nicole, it's marinade. Chill.
Yeah. Okay. They cut that all out.
Why?
That's the best part.
Yeah. So I was wondering, do you have like? So we've all got somebody we can point to that's brought us closer to this lifestyle of caring about our health and fitness, especially. Fitness, I'm sure, has helped save us in many ways than just one, and health. Do you have that person, or do you have something that pushed you to that other than enjoying football?
So I think there's a few answers to that. Number one, obviously, I didn't want to follow what my parents did. That's like the main reason. Secondary would be I've realized this life is more important than about me. It's about other people, and it's about giving. We can get into religion if you want to, but you need to live for something bigger than yourself. So my whole goal is to provide an opportunity to other people that I wish I had growing up. I'm going to say this because I'm going to, but I'm 5'5", so keep that into perspective. If I had myself as a trainer in high school, there's no doubt I would have played in college higher than D2. I was recruited for D2 in high school. But I think I could have went D1. I had no clue what I was doing, and I had no one really around me that knew what they were doing. So, it's more than just me, if that makes sense. And then whatever is under secondary, is it tertiary? Mm-hmm. My cousin Nick Duraney, he really got me into a lot of this stuff, and he's been there when I'm at my highs and my lows. And he's been a really good mentor for me, whether it's, with women, business, fitness, like anything like that. If there's any topics that I have questions, I can always go to him. And he's kind of guided me into this conspiracy theorist, think for yourself lifestyle.
That's good.
In more ways than one.
That's awesome. Good. Don't tell him about the bands.
He makes fun of the way I train. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, tell him that you got him on the bands. So.
Nick uses the bands.
He just posted it. That's why.
Yeah.
All love.
We did this complex where, you do your push press, and then we would go over. We do an 8x1 cheated reps, frontal raises, overstimulate the shit out of your shoulder. We'd go 8x1, 8x2, 8x3. Then you'd go up in weight after 3 weeks. And he was like, why are you doing a 1 rep max on a cheated frontal raise? And it's like, if you do 8 reps of that with the push press, you're going to overstimulate the shit out of your shoulders and your nervous system, but you're also going to be really, really sore, like you've never been sore before. And the craziest idea is if you want to get somewhere, you have to push yourself to get to that point. So if you want to be a really good push presser, you're going to have to work your shoulders. Well, if you can't, there's really not a way that you can overstimulate your shoulders in a upward press, like cheating, but you can do that with your delts. Mm. What do you think the main mover is in a push press? Yeah. It's like reverse engineering it. It's like, where do we want to go? Then that's how we need to plan for it, which I think a lot of people get completely wrong.
I like it.
Good stuff.
I got one more. So you're starting at the gym as a personal trainer. Are you working towards applying for some more weight room jobs, or do you have anything else going on?
So I'm not going to say the school because I've kept it under wraps. I interviewed with a school in Oklahoma. Still waiting to hear back from them. They were supposed to call me this week. They called me today saying, we had to move an interview up to next week. So I'm still waiting to hear on that. And if I would get that, it would be June 9th that I would start. But I was really looking forward to that position. And then they told me what the actual position was. I knew the dude that was there before, and they're like, oh yeah, you'd be the coordinator of strength and conditioning here. It's a 5A school. It's got 2,000 kids, brand new weight room, brand new facilities. And I'm that's where I want to be, especially with how young I am. But after seeing what the other schools in Oklahoma have hired, there's not a shot in hell I'm getting that job. And so, like, I'm at the point where if I get it, cool. If I don't get it, cool.
Yeah.
I do think, and this is not to be ego-driven or whatever, I don't think there's anyone in Fargo that will train kids or athletes the way I will to get the results that the athletes want to see. And it could just be that I haven't been here in a while, but like in high school, like Dynasty was the one. And I don't even think they're a thing anymore, but it's like, I knew people who went there and they didn't really see anything. And like just the small sample size and the people that I've worked with, I feel like I can elevate myself, but also this company up, and then also the kids up.
We've got a few strength and conditioning gyms here in town now that like specifically focus on athletes and, you know, speed and agility and all kinds of different stuff. And that's primarily what they do. And they have like camps all the time. Yeah. One of them's called like ETS or something like that. I think it's in Moorhead even.
ETS is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of guys that I know interned at, but they interned under like the main guys in Minneapolis. So
yeah,
it's probably like the McDonald's thing where it's like you don't really have quality control, which I'm not going to shit on them.
They're fairly new here too, so they haven't been around.
And
very long.
They're going like all over the country. I know there's one in Bismarck. There was one in Utah that I wanted to apply for, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to train people. I don't want to like, it's fun programming, but I want to be the guy telling you got one more, motherfucker.
Yeah,
like, let's go.
Yeah. You like that one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like the one on 25
right.
or whatever the CSCS says you have to have.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, 1 on 20.
There's a lot of very, very, very good athletes coming out of North Dakota and Minnesota. So there's a lot of opportunity here for sure.
And again, like, I don't think there's anyone really around here that, I mean, I know Kindred's good. I'm trying to think of what the dude's name is. If it's still the same guy, I know he's pretty good, but like in a high school setting, like you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And which I'd rather be in a high school than private, but like, I don't really think there's full-time strength and conditioning coaches here at high school. So it's like, now is my time to shine. I can get you where you want to be, but also sprinkle in some stuff that you've never done before. And you're going to be like, holy shit, dude, I've gotten way better in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
Legit shit, man. If anybody wants to work with him, hit us up at HQ Gym. We'll get you assigned to him and see what he can do for you. Before we go, man, one last quick question. I know you already have a lot of, weird background in your family life and whatnot, but are you sure Adam Martin isn't your dad? Because, man, you talk exactly like him, bro.
Really?
Oh, my God. It's crazy. Like the intonation and everything is identical.
So,
and I've known Adam for a super long time.
Here's the weird thing. I also talk exactly like my dad.
Do you? Okay.
Like,
so your mom had a type. That's all it boils down to then.
Yeah, like when you text my dad like Merry Christmas or Happy Birthday, he's like, yep. Like instead of saying thanks or like if you say thank you to him, like he just says yep. And I realized like I don't say you're welcome, I just say yep. Yeah. And like him and I will sit on the phone and like if it's a 30-minute phone call, we'll maybe talk for 25 of those or 25 seconds of that 30 minutes. Like it will just be dead silent. We'll be doing whatever, but I get told I'm a lot like my father. So
interesting. Well, you sound like Adam Martin too, so maybe it's just by default. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
but Nick's older than you, so yeah. Nick probably you picked up from Nick, and Nick sounds like his dad, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cool shit.
Something.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate your time, brother.
Appreciate you.
Hopefully, you guys enjoy this episode. Make sure to check out Aiden Brown at HQ Gym if you're looking for somebody to train one of your young athletes or get some kind of a camp going, which we'll be working on here soon too. So yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, share the channel, tell your friends about us. Don't tell your friends about us. Talk good, talk bad. It doesn't really matter as long as you're talking about us. Peace.